go ahead and get started with
Sure.
the interview, okay? So first I'm going to have you say your name and then spell it also.
Yes, I'm Harold Copeland, Harold Curtis Copeland, Harold Curtis Copeland.
All right, and my name's Robert Bauman, and today is August 6th of 2013, and we're conducting an oral history interview on the campus of Washington State University Tri-Cities. And so we're going to be talking about your experiences working at the Hanford site. So I wondered if we could start by having you tell me first how you came to Hanford, when you got here, any first impressions of the place, any of that.
My wife and I came here from Denver, Colorado in October 1947. I was working for the Bureau of Reclamation. They were decentralizing their main office, sending people to all the field offices. General Electric came in recruiting, and they received word of this decentralization, looking for engineers. So there were a number of us that thought that's a good opportunity, so we came out here in 1947. We were driving our little three-window Ford coupe and towing my Harley motorcycle and back. And the first impression of Richland was pretty grim. We came into town and all we saw were these flat-topped prefab houses. They didn't have their peak roofs yet. And there was dust in the road and not hardly any trees. But we came here, General Electric said, well, there's a job for 5 years. Well, for the first 4 or 5 years, we kept thinking, when we go back to Colorado. I grew up in Colorado, see, it's a neat place, Fort Collins, and I graduated from CSU there, so naturally it was like home. But after 5 years, we began to like this place. We had the Columbia River, the Yakima River, had the Blue Mountains, the Cascades, and the ocean, and fishing in the ocean, not too far away. So we made it our home for all these years.
And when you and your wife first came, what sort of housing did you live in at first?
They were building houses rapidly. The A and B houses, a lot of those were up and people living in them, and prefabs, as I mentioned. Our first few months, we're living with Lee Hall and his son, 700 Sanford, in a 2-bedroom prefab. And the wife and I got the small bedroom. She was pregnant when we got here, December 7th, the Pearl Harbor Day, but in 1947, our first daughter was born. And there was pretty cramped conditions with a baby beside the bed and then a 2-bedroom prefab. Well, the crying at night, she hadn't got used to sleeping at night. Well, Lee Hall said he had one bad ear. He says, put her out in the living room and let her cry out there. I'll just turn my good ear down and I won't hear her. So he did, and the crying session, and nothing happened from it, finally got the message to Diane that she was supposed to sleep at night. So that was nice. And Lee Hall was so glad to have a woman in the house to do cooking and do furniture. She did curtains and changing paint and putting a woman's touch on the house, like women can do that men don't have any idea about. Well, she did that, and he was very pleased to have us with us. But they were building the pre-cut houses, and we got along about in the 48. It was probably in March or April. The pre-cut houses were ready to be occupied. We moved to a 2-bedroom pre-cut. Lee Hall was most depressed and dejected because we were leaving and taking all these good traits away. So we lived at 700 Sanford for several years until about, I think it was 1973, our second child was born. So on the housing list, we were eligible for a bigger house, a 3-bedroom. We were in a 2-bedroom. It so happened I was working with an engineer, Vern Hill was his name, and he lived on Atkins. And he said, you know, we go. They had a housing list, big board behind the glass. Housing list was posted. You'd go down and apply for housing that became available. Vern told me his next door neighbor was moving, so I applied for that house before it was posted. See, so I was first on the list of eligibility for the house, and we got the house at 209 Atkins because of Vern. And it was they're well-built houses, #1 grade lumber, and it's been a very durable and good place to live over the years.
And where was this housing list that you mentioned? Where was that you?
They had a sort of a housing department located in the vicinity, very close to where the Richland Police Department is. You know, across the street from the federal building would be. But they would post this housing list, and people that were eligible to move would go in and apply.
And how would you describe the town of Richland at the time in the late 40s and early 50s? What kind of place was it to live?